So far in our movement series, we talked about why we don't move well. We talked about irradiating tension, and we talked about joint dissociation. Now we're going to start to put these things together. How do we actually move well? How do we dissociate our joints? That's great in theory, but how do we actually do it? Well, that's what we're going to go over, and these are called movements called controlled articular rotations. That's a mouthful. I don't feel like saying that all the time, and you don't feel like hearing me say it all the time, so I'm going to call them CARs. CARs, controlled articular rotations. CARs, we're going to do some CARs right now. What's the goal with CARs? Well, the goal with CARs is we're trying to create and control more joint space. So if these are joints like this, the space in between the two bones, we're trying to be able to control that and create more space. So can you open up farther here? Can you open up farther here and here? And then can you do that in this big giant circle? So we're trying to create circles with all of our joints. And for ball and socket joints, like the shoulder and the hips, that's easy to visualize. But for smaller joints, maybe not so much. But they work just the same way. So what we're trying to do is really control that movement. And first we're going to go with the ankle. But intensity is the most important thing next to control. You need to do these the right way, or else they don't work. It's that simple. And the right way is doing the movement properly and then doing it as hard as you possibly can. Right? So if you're doing something as hard as you possibly can, you run into pain, that's a problem. But discomfort is okay. And there's one particular type of pain that I'm really most interested in that you avoid. We call that closing angle pain or closing angle pinching. So let's use the example of our neck. If I'm coming in this big giant circle like this, I'm using the muscles on this side of my neck to stretch this side of my neck here and pull that position open. So I should feel all this discomfort here. I should feel these muscles working here. But if I feel pain here, that's a problem. So what you do is you just go around and say, no problem, oh, that's pain, okay. We're gonna come up and around, and then we're gonna continue that circle. And then maybe on this side, you do a little bit of extra work to open this up, and over time that pain will go away. But if you just do this, that's not gonna do anything. It's gotta be abs tight, radiating tension. Everything's tight, tight, tight. Big deep breath and pull that position open. That's how we get the results. So let's talk about the ankle. I'm gonna bring my hand underneath of my knee. I'm gonna grab my forearm, and then I'm gonna grab my shin. Again, I'm squeezing everything really, really tight, and I can easily make these circles with my ankles, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the biggest circles that we possibly can. So how do we do that? Well, first, I'm gonna pull my toes all the way up towards my shins as much as I possibly can. So I'm trying to use these muscles here on the front side of my leg to pull my toes all the way up as hard as I can. Now, while I'm pulled up like that, I'm gonna start to rotate my ankle to the side, down, and around. And in each position, I'm trying to pull it as far as I possibly can. So now what we're doing is we're taking these movements that we do that are this plane, this plane, this plane, and we're making it one giant movement, right? So I'm taking the muscles in the front of my leg and I'm pulling my toes up. And now as I start to rotate, I'm shifting the work needed to these muscles on the side of my leg. And then I'm shifting the work needed to the muscle on the bottom of my leg. And then I'm shifting that work to the muscle on the side of my leg. And that's how things happen in the real world. We don't do things like robots. We do things very dynamically, and we change positions very, very quickly. So we don't do that in our training, and this is where we're gonna start. So you should go 2, we're gonna go 1 in this direction, 1 in the opposite direction. We're gonna pull it really, really far, and then switch it up. You can see these are hard. You should feel this all the way up, and then opposite, all the way down around. Good, we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Let's pretend I did the same thing on the other side. Now we're gonna move to the knee. So I'm gonna have a very similar grip, but instead of grabbing here, I'm just gonna do an old wrestler's grip here. And I'm trying to keep this position fixed now. So this is where we're trying to dissociate the joints. I don't wanna move my knee to move my ankle. I don't wanna move my ankle in order to move my knee. I wanna break those positions apart. And we do that by getting everything tight, squeezing everything tight, and it keeps things tighter in position so they don't move, and that's how we dissociate those joints. So in the knee, I'm going to rotate my knee out. This position's easy. I'm gonna rotate as far as I can, and then I'm gonna extend the knee. Ooh. And I'm gonna rotate in, internal rotation, flex, external rotation, extend, internal rotation, flex. Now I'm going to stay in internal rotation, go the opposite direction. I'm trying to pull, 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 and then up, and then down. So I'll make a series for each individual joint on how to do it. But think about this, if you can't even control one joint, how can you control one joint while you're doing a very, very dynamic movement like jumping or squatting or something like that? It's basically impossible, and that's where pain and injuries come from, is not being able to control all of these different joints doing the same thing. So how do we do it? We break it apart and we learn to control one joint at a time. So if I do this joint here with the ankle, I can feel that this ankle has much better control than this ankle. That's a problem. I can see that, okay, this knee, I have much better control with this knee than I do with this knee. That's a problem. And what has happened, like, they've gotten significantly better, but what's happened in the past, guess what? This hip has problems because these ones here aren't doing their job. This one's doing their job totally fine, this hip's fine. This one's not. Okay, my elbows aren't doing their problem. My elbows aren't doing their job. This one's not doing their job as much. This shoulder hurts. Once I started doing these, the pain is gone because I've learned how to control each individual thing. So now when I'm benching, what position should my elbows be in? Well, that's an important question to ask that most people never even think about. They just grab the bar and they just go. Well, yeah, you're gonna lead to some problems like that. So moving forward in the next video, we'll break down each individual joint and we'll show you some exercise that you can actually do. And then this is an assessment. From this assessment, you can say, this is a problem, this is a problem. How do I fix this? How do I make it not imbalanced? That's what we're gonna do, we call pails and rails. And that's gonna be another video. So stay tuned for a movement series. Get yourself out of pain and performing way better.